Hello everyone, this is Haley from Cartooniverse, and today I am with Michael, and we are finally going to discuss the show OKKO. And today 2 episodes premiered, and we are finally going to get into discussing the show, and we are starting off with reviews. And I'm super excited to do this, since this is an awesome show, and it's awesome that we can finally talk about it. So first up is Second First Date. Now, what did you think, Michael?
I thought it was a really good episode. It was a nice change of pace from how you would probably predict that episode to go down, because I feel like most cartoons probably would have had them get together in some way, shape, or form, or whatever. But I liked how they kind of went against the mold. It seems like we can talk about more about this later, but it does seem like Rad may have some type of feelings with Enid, which may come into play at some point. But I think it was a very interesting way that they handled everything.
Yeah, I really liked the new character that was introduced, Cupid, and like he's just really funny, and I don't know, it was just very unorthodox ways of him making them kind of have a second first date, if I could say so. And I really like flashbacks in general, so I was glad to see that once again this show is not afraid of giving us flashbacks, unlike another certain show, Steven Universe, because that one likes to stick to one perspective, but here we're getting perspectives of like all the characters, and that was great, and how they did the flashback was pretty funny.
Technically, we did. I think I don't know if that's correct or not. I may be totally wrong, but I think they actually do keep it with KO's perspective, because all the flashbacks we've gotten have been directly told to KO or shown to KO, as like the Cupid eye thing literally showed them. So I think they might still be keeping up with that narrative.
I think the difference is people are willing to tell him their past. I think that's the difference then.
Sort of.
Because we've seen like quite a few already. It's only like 20 something episodes in.
They're kind of vague though. Vague and saxophony.
Yes. Well, hopefully we get answers to that soon.
Yeah.
So an interesting thing in the flashback, we saw Elodie again. And, from a recent episode, I forgot what the name of that one was, but it's one of my favorite episodes. And, the whole flashback of Elodie and Enid and their story, that was great. And, Elodie's kind of, I don't know, herself, I guess. But this is before, obviously, all that happened with them and their fight.
Yeah. But, it seems like it's after they found out about the competition.
Yes.
She mentions that she wants to get into Point Academy. So I like how they're really keeping the continuity nice and fresh and clean. Enid still has her Naruto stuff going on, and she's like she's friends with Elodie. So you can really see a very clear timeline here, which I like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, Enid asks Rad out on a date because he like kind of just. She dropped some books and he picked them up for her, and that was enough apparently. Or actually, I'm just kidding. She actually had been admiring him for a couple weeks, I think, and she finally got the courage to ask him. And then they agree, and I can't remember exactly how, but just his friends were just kind of like they were his real friends, but he had imaginary friends on his shoulders, telling him what to do and to be a jerk, and things spiraled down from there.
I was like almost questioning if it was literally them, because they felt so real. It didn't feel like it was in his head. So I was like, well, they're superpower beings, so maybe they have the power to turn themselves into mini devil people for whatever reason. But I don't know. I guess that's somewhat up to interpretation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And because of him being a jerk several times, she stops liking him. And that kind of leads into today where like the present, where they still, are kind of at odds. And so they start fighting, and then Cupid makes them go on this date that is kind of like a fight, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah, I liked first of all, that date was just, it made me so sad. Enid sad because she's adorable and innocent at that time. Yeah, I like the way they set it up as a fight. Who can be the best? Who could have the best date? And I think that's something that kind of was brought up before, where they're doing like, oh, who's the best Rad? Like they kind of make everything in the show a competition, like a literal competition.
Yes.
So I like how they kind of do that. So I'm curious to see how they handle that in the future.
And so Enid kind of decides that Rad hasn't really changed since middle school. And, after their fight, kind of, she like falls off the ledge of the ring, I guess. And Rad catches her with his psychic abilities, and he actually, it's good to see him admitting that he was just trying to impress her, and he was a jerk, in fact, back then.
Yeah, and we're seeing more and more of Rad's innocent side. I don't know if we'll ever get 100% because that's kind of his character, but I think we're in for a lot of character development for a lot of... We're already getting so much. It's only been out for like a month, but I feel like we're really learning about these characters a lot, which is something that, you know, not knocking Steven Universe, obviously, but that's something that I think Steven Universe, you know, they were a lot slower with presenting more deeper elements of the characters, like, you know, Amethyst and stuff like that. We still don't really know much about Pearl's past, truly. But I feel like we're learning a lot about all these characters so far and their pasts very, very quickly, which is something that, you know, even though OKKO is more of an episodic show than Steven Universe is, and even though, you know, we're getting into the meat and potatoes very soon, but it seems like their pacing when it comes to character development seems to be a lot faster.
And one thing that I found kind of strange, you know, just kind of shocking, is like, oh, how much Rad had changed from like when he was, you know, in that middle school at the beginning of it, he was to the present day. And like kind of with Enid, I could see that, like how she was like younger. I was like, oh, I can see that for her, you know, definitely be like a nerd or whatever. But then Rad, it's like a, you know, 180, completely different. So, you know, like you said, he probably won't ever go back to like how he was, but you know, he'll definitely, you know, I think he'll definitely change.
Yeah, and that side's already there. He loves cats and he babysits and all that good stuff. So we do know that soft side is still there. You know, he just had really bad friends that influenced him in the wrong way. And it's kind of cool because it kind of works backwards because we saw his flashback of, you know, how he was acting at Gar's and when he was first being interviewed for Gar's Bodega, and how cocky he was and overly confident he was back then. But even then, he still kind of had his insecurities. And then we're kind of moving backwards to where he was nice and sweet little boy. And then he kind of got corrupted by his friends. And that's kind of what spurred that on.
Yeah, definitely. So any final thoughts about the episode before we move on?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. Really good episode. A lot of character development. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of shipping now.
If there wasn't already, yeah. And so moving on, we have the second episode of the day, which was One Last Score. So basically it was about, we're actually getting to learn a lot about like the side characters of the show really quickly. And this one is about Ginger, I believe her name is. And she is one of the old ladies that kind of works out at Carol's, which is KO's mom's, the dojo. So that was cool. We're getting to learn about these characters out. Like, you know, they're just there to be in the background. No, they got passed.
Yeah, I was actually listening to an interview from Ian James Cordy, the creator of OKKO, while I was editing today, and he stated that he, you know, didn't want just characters in the background, you know, like how normally in shows, characters in the background, not really supposed to pay attention to them. They don't really matter, and kind of similar to Steven Universe, but he said like he actually wanted to create characters that have very specific powers, pasts, and characteristics and all that good stuff. He said he created like around 70-something heroes and characters, which I don't think we've seen that many yet. So there's probably plenty of characters. I'm sure we'll learn a lot about every character at some point, and that gets me really excited.
Wow. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, so what were you listening to?
It was a podcast. I will leave a link in the description below because I don't remember the name of the podcast. But it was cool.
Awesome, because that seems like something good to listen to if you're bored. Or to learn more about the show in general.
Yep.
So anyways, we learned that, you know, speaking of, you know, backstories, Ginger was once a person who did crimes, a criminal. There you go.
A person
and she stole candy, which is really interesting. And, you know, she's old now, so she's not really able to do that anymore. And, she also mentions that she had a partner in crime that got caught, and that ended that. But, you know, she wants to be young again. And it turns out there's a candy that can do that, can turn somebody young for 10 minutes. And, you know, after, like, some, you know, KO, of course, doesn't want to help her with this because he is not about that at all. You know, what?
Cinnamon roll.
Yeah, he eventually, you know, gives in and says, okay, he'll help her. And it's called, like, the Ponce, I think, which, I don't know. What the heck?
That's I think that's a reference to Ponce de Leon.
There we go. Fountain of Youth.
Yeah, he's looking for the Fountain of Youth. So that was a nice little nod.
And so, yeah, he agrees to that they can steal it if they return it later, which makes no sense because you eat a candy. But, KO's logic.
He just wants to feel better about it.
Yeah. So she makes a plan, and it's funny because she mentions that there's always a double cross at the end, but she says she won't do that. And they almost manage to get away with it, but they don't. They get caught. And, she kind of, yeah. And she's like, of course, she's like, oh, KO, it's KO's fault that, because she's an innocent old lady. Why would she do this? So she makes KO take the blame. And she admits she never had a partner, so there was a double cross. But it turns out they were all double crossing each other, multiple layers.
I was so confused because she took off her face and he took off his face, and it was the other way around. I was like, what? I'm so confused. What's happening? And then it was weird. And then it turns out the whole thing was staged and fake. And it was all the people from the dojo, and it was just a mess. Yeah.
And of course, at the very end, it's kind of funny because he kind of like sticks his hand out, and he has the real Ponce. And then she kind of like eats it off his hand, and she transforms. I don't even know if it works or if it did. It obviously wasn't much of a difference.
Yeah, I think that was the joke. Is like that's how she looks in her youth.
Yeah.
That amazing Sailor Moon animation.
Yes, exactly. When cartoons do that now, I love it every time. Yes, your thoughts?
Yeah, I liked how that one was a little different because it was just like complete misdirection. It was still an old lady, just changed her hair color. No, it was good. It was funny little episode. Nice contrast to what we're probably going to be getting in a few days. We're just going to get a lot more sinister, and that's when the theories start.
Yes. Yeah, so this was just like, would you call this a filler? Probably, right? Because, it's just...
With OKKO, it's hard, because we were talking earlier about this. Like, I feel like with Steven Universe, there's more of an overarching story, and it's more driven by that. And I feel like they sometimes don't have the pacing right. So when you do the Beach City episode, they sometimes overdo it, and it feels like quote-unquote filler, or whatever you want to call it. It steps away from one of the main draws of the story. And then, like, going back to Star vs. Force of Evil, they kind of melded the two, the school life of the characters and also the more magical life, that's an overarching story, and they kind of combine into one. Makes you care about both. And then with OKKO, so far, it seems like it's more cartoony, more goofy, more Looney Tunes-esque. So the story elements that are starting to be introduced, I feel like it's more forgivable when they don't focus on that, because it doesn't really present itself as that as much. And then when we do get it, it's like, ooh, interesting. When we saw Mr. Gar's fears, still so many questions about that. The flashback with the sandwich and the donut shop blowing up, and like what that was about. And now we're getting KO's shadow self. And we have the romance between Boxman and Venomous. So there's like so much happening. There's a lot of layers that I feel like are going to come together in a different way than I think it did with Steven Universe, because it's OKKO is more sitcom-y than that.
Yes, true. Yeah, I love both these styles, but and this was a nice, I don't know, I just found it interesting to learn about Ginger, and then I was actually interested in their past, and that means they did a good job, I'd say.
Yeah, no, it was fun. And I'm looking forward to more characters, even the background characters getting more development. Yeah, like, they managed to make all of them interesting so far, like, every character when they focus on them. So yeah, it's like you said, the creator said he wanted to do that, and he's doing a great job. So hopefully we get more. So pretty soon all the characters in the show will have, like, an emotional connection to. We'll either love them or hate them, or the backstory and what they do with KO. So I think that pretty much covers it. We'll be returning to do another review in a few days because on Labor Day, TKO comes out, which is the first 22-minute episode of OKKO. And so things are definitely going down from the preview. Yep. Super excited. Can't wait. Lots of theories coming. Do you have any quick predictions for that episode before we sign off?
Well, some stuff kind of did leak, so I don't know if we can talk about that here. Yeah, that's true. My predictions would have to go into that. But from the promo, learning about, I don't know. I don't know what I can reveal, honestly. Right, it's coming up really soon, so...
Yeah, we'll save it.
Hold tight. Yeah. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Later.